OGs, welcome and welcome back to On God with me, Welheminah, mindful, heartful, and purposeful conversations. If it is your first time here, you just find yourself a community of believers who are doing life with Christ one stumble at a time. If you've been with me since episode number uno, you know I super duper appreciate you. Thank you so much for holding space for the girl, as the girl has been holding space for you. I don't know if you guys are able to tell when it is pod day, because I just get super excited. Like, it's almost like the old clan is just being connected, reunited, all the laughs and the giggles. And I think today's even more special because I got my bestie in studio. Hi, Celine.
Hi.
Is that, were you practicing that hi? Hi. And people do that, like they get so awkward with mics. Are you being awkward with the mic right now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I am absolutely being awkward with the mic right now.
That's Celine, I promise you guys. That is not her hi. She says hi. Do you wanna go? You wanna go again? Hi, Celine.
Hi, Welheminah.
She also doesn't call me Welheminah. Like, oh my goodness, people are so fake in front of the camera. But yes, let's get social and interactive. You can follow me on Instagram, Welheminah_S. You can follow me on TikTok, Welheminah_Simono. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, and you're watching, we side-eyeing you. You need to do better, okay? But let's get into today's episode. As I was preparing for this episode, it kind of felt a bit familiar because y'all know me, peak single girl, always having single girl content out there. And I think I have 2 episodes where I talk about singleness. I think the first one I was just talking like not seeing singleness as a season of waiting, you know what I mean? And then the second time I spoke on singleness, I think we're talking about being a single girl who embodies, you know, the characteristics of a Proverbs 31 woman, right? But I think this time around, I want to talk about singleness from a point of you might want to take the time to find your soul before you find your soulmate. Copywriter extraordinaire. I'm kidding. I saw the title on Substack and I'm like, this is so dope. I'm going to use this. So I think today I want to talk about finding your soul before finding your soulmate. And even as we're talking about finding your soul, as you are finding your soulmate, I think we also touch on the fact that when you are in a season of singleness or as a single person, you get to a point where you start idolizing marriage, right? Like you start idolizing the idea of getting married, the idea of walking down the aisle, the idea of finding the one, so much so that you end up compromising and accepting any and everything that is presented before you. And I think that is the scariest place to be, where you want marriage so bad that you are able to negotiate with everything that is presented before you, as far as whether this is your kingdom spouse, as far as whether you normally wouldn't go for someone like this. But hey, because there's an imaginary deadline in your head, you just like, yep, I am just going to go on and settle. Because when you idolize something, when you want something so bad, that's what you end up doing, Savannah. You end up settling, right? Because somewhere in our walk, whether with the Lord, whether with the people around us, we got indoctrinated with the idea that marriage is the reward. We got indoctrinated with the idea that marriage means you are worthy. Marriage means you are chosen. Marriage means there is so much more to what you have to offer outside of simply being a human being who's here to honor God. And the moment you start wanting marriage so bad is when you start dating from a point of desperation and not dating from a point of discernment, right? And we once had a conversation, I don't know if it was in earlier episodes or what, where we said dating is for discernment, devotion is for marriage, right? And when you start dating from a point of desperation, that's when you start accepting and tolerating the crumbs and the scums of the bag. And I'm not throwing jabs at anyone, because we've all been there. We've all found ourselves in situations where you're like, I think I kind of settled here, right? And I think that's ultimately what happens when you date from desperation instead of dating from discernment. Because what happens is the morning texts, they start feeling like they are answered prayers, right? The red flags, they start looking like, no, he just needs more grace, right? The emotionally unavailable man start looking like, oh, this is my assignment. When the truth of the matter is, he needs to go to therapy or they need to go to therapy And you need to go on home and start praying to the Lord, to have the Lord reveal to you what kind of spouse he has in mind for you. And maybe sometimes it's not even about the spouse, but maybe just going back home and just praying so that the Lord can reveal more of you to yourself, right? Because when you know yourself, when you know the kind of person you are, then it's easy for you to know when something that is in front of you is not necessarily compatible with who you are, right? If you don't know that you are a believer, or you don't know what your convictions are, when the next person comes and they present you with whatever it is that they want to present you with, you're ultimately going to take it. Why? Because you wanted to find the soulmate before you could ever find your soul. And we touched a bit on this in last week's episode, right? Where we said we need to normalize making God our identity. We need to normalize making God our foundation in everything that we do, right? Because when God is your foundation, it's hard for you to look at marriage and say marriage is going to be your salvation. And I think the tension that we find ourselves in today's world is that, listen, everyone has someone that they're talking to. Everyone has a little thing on the side. Everyone has standards. Everyone has access. Everyone is available, but everyone does not really know who they are, right? And it's hard to figure out who you are if you're constantly in the noise and the busyness and the buzz of what's happening all over and all around you. And I think social media hasn't made it easy as well, right? The wedding pictures, the couple goals, the vacations and everything. And it's easy for you to sit there and say, oh my goodness, you are missing out. But the truth is you are not, because you find that that's not even your cup of jiva. I had an interesting chat with a mate, Kawe, and he was like to me, Vals, you don't travel a lot. Like, I thought you're going to be one of those people that travel a lot, vacations and. And I said, because I'm not a big fan of traveling. Like, do I want a good vacation every now and then? Sure. But traveling is not my thing. You get what I mean? But because I took the time to know myself, I will never see vacation pictures and feel like I'm missing out on life, because I've taken the time to actually know myself. So essentially, here's what happens when you do not know yourself. You start building the relationships around you from a point of fear, right? Fear that time is running out, fear that you're never going to be chosen, fear that you're never going to find the one, fear that you're never going to fit in. So you end up compromising with yourself. You end up crossing the boundaries that you have with yourself out of fear. And I think that is the most thing to take out when you're getting to know yourself. To understand, am I operating from a point of fear? Am I operating from a point that time is running out? Because some of us, when we sit and we analyze the friendships that we are in, the jobs that we are in, or whatever the case may be, it's all because of fear. It stems from fear. And we already know that God does not give us the spirit of fear. So when you sit across the person, when you sit across the thing, and you're realizing that you are holding on to dear life because of the fear, then maybe there is something worth reconsidering there. To say, am I holding on because I'm scared? And if I'm scared, what is it that I am so scared of? So now that we've unpacked the fact that you need to find your soul before you find your soulmate, you need to know yourself before you're trying to know somebody else, you need to understand what are your fears, you need to understand what is your language. How then do we go about making sure that we are not seated on the end of the table where we look like we are dating from desperation instead of discernment? First things first, date yourself first. There's a pastor that once had a full episode on this, to say sometimes on the list of the things that you want in a partner, you need to make sure you can find those things in yourself. And I totally agree, right? But I think in today's topic, when I say date yourself, I'm really just going back to the idea that really get to know yourself, right? There's this meme people are circulating where they go like, oh, you never know how much you know about yourself until you are sitting in a group of people or in an interview and they're like, tell us about yourself, and it's crickets. It's crickets because at the core of it, I think it's revelatory. If it's not a word, forgive me, give me grace, right? But it's quite revealing that you clearly do not know yourself. And we always claim we know ourselves, but we don't even know what our triggers. We don't even know what our convictions are. We don't know what a safe space looks like in Welheminah's world. We don't know these things, right? So date yourself first. I found out on my birthday, because I'm a plant mom. I'm good at taking care of plants, right? So I always thought No, I'm not a flowers girl. I don't like flowers, right? But I found out on my birthday when I got flowers that I actually love the feeling of getting flowers, right? And best believe, since then, I just got myself one bouquet, right? It's about knowing yourself. Because when you do not know yourself, bare minimum will always look like effort. Oh, at least they're trying. Oh, at least they're committed. But you can't see that they're committed to your downfall. But you just love the idea that they want to be in a committed relationship, right? In the book of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 7, right? It says, "O daughter of Jerusalem, don't awaken love until the proper time." Right? There are some versions that says until it is ready. Some version says until it pleases, until it so desires, right? And I remember unpacking this part of the scripture and I'm saying, what would it mean in the context of the girl who's trying to find her soul? It just means until you know yourself, until you are mature enough to say, I know the things that I want and I know the things that I don't want. I know what is safe, I know what is not safe. I know when I'm settling and I know when I'm not settling. Date yourself. Know what makes you uncomfortable, know what triggers you, know what drains your energy, know what makes you happy. I'm a cinephile. Y'all know I'm a sinner. I love me a good movie, right? But I realized lately them old classics make me happy and I be sitting there just binging on it. Date yourself and not in the way the world romanticizes. Oh, candlelit dinner. Oh, buy yourself flowers. Okay, good on wall, Sabrina, but how are you doing? In second thing I want you to lock down as you are trying to navigate your own soul before navigating your soulmate is that you ultimately just need to stop idolizing marriage. Now, don't hear me wrong, right? I'm not saying hate marriage. I absolutely love it, want it, desire it, honor it, because the Bible also honors the idea of marriage. But it becomes a problem when you start idolizing it, right? And idolizing and fixating with it to the point where you're saying, I just love the idea of being seen. I love the idea of being chosen by someone and not God. When we talk about idols, the first thing that comes to mind is normally the gods, the money, the image, the validation. But I think love can be an idol too. I once spoke in a previous episode where I was like, I knew love was an idol because it was the one thing I was willing to not talk to God about. And that's why I settled in previous seasons, right? So when you find yourself unable to have a conversation with God and wait on God concerning your kingdom spouse, then I need you to know, baby, that is roundabout an idol. And I need you to get it packing. Because the thing about idolizing marriage is that you start negotiating with compromise, right? You start ignoring the red flags. You start ignoring the fact that you don't see the fruits in this person. You start ignoring so many things. And when compromise enters the room, it usually costs you a whole lot more than you think. It's going to cost you your integrity because now you're not being integral in your relational dealings. And it's also going to cost you your peace. Because one thing about God, He will not let you sleep in that sin. You will not rest. He was so serious when he said there's no rest for the wicked because, baby, you will toss and turn. Third thing I want you to know is that I want you to learn what is safe. What is safe? What looks safe? What feels safe, right? I learned this the hard way that chemistry and safety are absolutely not the same. And I know they're not the same thing because with chemistry is going to familiarize chaos. It's going to look at chaos and chaos is going to look familiar. Inconsistency is going to look like passion, right? You even have the nerve to stand there and just be like, oh, we've just been through hell and back. Baby, it just looks like you've been through hell and you never came back, right? Oh, you've just been going through ups and downs, baby. That man has been dragging you down since he met you. So I want us to know what is safe. What does safety look like in a Welheminah world? What does safety look like in a melanin world? Learn what safety looks like in your world. And to be able to know what safety looks like, it goes back to the first point, date yourself. Because when you date yourself, then you ultimately learn and understand what safety looks like. Again, if you are your own safe space, you will never be willing to compromise. Because someone can walk into your life and you're gonna be like, yeah, no, it's looking like chaos, and I don't want a portion of that, right? Number 4 on the list, which is very important, stop romanticizing potential. Oh, Bafazi. So many of us have fallen by the potential sword, right? Stop romanticizing what they could be, what they could become, and focus on who they are now. One of Celine's favorite sayings is, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I need you to open your eyes to the inconsistency, open your eyes to the chaos, open your eyes to the fact that this person absolutely hates you, right? Stop romanticizing potential, because potential promises you everything but guarantees you absolutely nothing. Hope is a very dangerous thing to have, especially in this day and age where you're hoping someone's going to come around, where you're hoping someone is going to change, where you're hoping this person is finally going to see what you see. Baby, believe what this person is showing you about themselves. Because even in the book of Matthew, right, they say, we will know them by their fruits, not by their seed, not by who they could become, but by their fruit. So it's not enough for someone to say, oh, I swear on my mother's grave that I'm going to be. Baby, you can swear all you want. If I am not seeing the fruit right now, if you're not seeing the fruit right now, I need you to get it with the packing. So in conclusion, what am I saying? I'm not saying you need to villainize marriage. I'm not saying you're not supposed to want it. And if you've been following me, you know I absolutely want to get married one day, right? And for someone who has compromised along the way, I am not trying to do that anymore. Honor it, desire it, want it, but just don't want it more than you want God, because that is when it becomes an idol. And maybe what God wants to do for you in this season is that before he introduces you to your Boaz, before he introduces you to your soulmate, he just wants to introduce you to you. He just wants you to get to know yourself, know your real convictions, know your real laughter, know what makes you happy, know what makes you excited. Because at the end of the day, if you find the soulmate without finding your soul, you are going to fall apart. Let love be an addition and not a rescue mission. And that's all I have for you this week, OGs. Thank you so much. If this episode has blessed you in one way or another, please do share it with a friend. Please leave a comment and let me know what are your thoughts on this episode. Otherwise, stay mindful, stay heartful, stay purposeful. Love and light. XOXO. Kingdom Girl.